And welcome to the show. Baseball header. Double header. I was hoping we were going to have a lot of good things to talk about. And the Giants get swept in the doubleheader, losing the first game, losing the second game to Max Scherzer. And we're going to take some of your phone calls right now. In fact, we're going to take some audio calls today. And I just tweeted out the phone number. So join us, 510-823-0534. The great Marty Lurie in the house. We tell the band to give it a 5-second rest. There you go. See everybody.
I thought the Beatles were back.
What's going on, Marty? Good to see you.
Yeah, no, it's good to talk ball with you. Look, this is part of a baseball season. And there were times in the past, you'd have 15 doubleheaders in a season.
I love a doubleheader.
Yeah, with rainouts and just scheduled doubleheaders. So it's a long day of baseball. It's a long day of baseball, and the Giants lost 2. And it was freezing weather. And I think maybe their age caught up with them just a little bit. I thought Belton Crawford, maybe even Ruff. I think the weather and age got to him a little bit here by the end of the day.
Well, you mentioned Ruff. Ruff is struggling. He's just not swinging the bat right now. Let's go back to the first game. I thought the first game was interesting. Giants wound up losing the first game 5-4. They had a 4-1 lead in this game, and ultimately wind up losing it. Interesting game. Cobb went out with the injury, so that obviously hurt. He had a groin injury. Right groin injury. 4 1/3 for Cobb, 6 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned. Walked nobody, struck out 4. Giants, as I said, had a 4-1 lead. Mets came back with a 3-run 5th, and then Alvarez pitched the 6th. McGee pitched the 7th. McGill started for New York. Giants had a rally going in the 8th inning, and then there was the controversy. Why don't we talk about that? It seemed like the Giants got a bad call after it looked like the runner was safe at first. Was it Estrada in game 1? And they went to replay. And despite the fact that the polar bear was off the bag, it looked like, at first base for the Mets got the call. I was shocked by that, Marty. To me, that seemed like solid visual evidence that the foot was off the bag, but they called him out. What'd you think? I mean, was it that close, or did they mess that one up?
I wouldn't overturn it, to tell you the truth. I just think it was one of those. He was safe. He beat it out, and Alonso was basically off the bag. And how could you say there's definitive evidence there to turn that around and call it an out? I've watched a lot of replay over the years, and obviously you have too. And that was one that if I had a bet on, I would say that's not getting overturned. I never saw a clear shot that his toe was on the bag when he caught the ball.
So that, to me, was the kind of the damper of game 1. But, the Giants, Marte scored on the Cobb Wild pitch. That gave Mets the 1-0 lead. Jock Peterson hits the solo bomb to center field in the second to tie the game at 1. Vosler, who just got called up, looked pretty good today. Had a couple hits in that first game, singled to left, and that scored Estrada to make it 2-1 Giants. And then Crawford in the third inning had an RBI single to shallow center field. That scored Yaz and Belt. And the Giants are 4-1, and you're feeling real good. At that point, I'm thinking, hey, man, the Giants are looking good. But the Mets would come back against Leon and Cobb in that 5th inning. McNeil had a 2-run double. Lindor, who's just absolutely the hottest hitter in the game, probably. He doubled to right field that scored McNeil, and that tied the game at 4. And all of a sudden, it was a new ball game.
Yeah, losing Cobb hurt. Leon had to come in. He was not warmed up, and right away he gave up the double to Lindor that ended up tying the game in that inning. But, yeah, I felt pretty good. A lot of balls the Mets hit were down the line on the chalk and stuff like that. And that's part of baseball, because the Giants, frankly, were hitting them where they ain't. They were hitting the other way. And Vosler did it. Duggar did it. Estrada got a hit. So they had the runs. They had 4 runs. I think Crawford's hit was the hit of the day for me. 2 strikes, 2 out, and they could have walked him. Buck could have walked him. He had second and third, and first base was open, and Buck could have said, all right, I'm putting you on, and I'll deal with Estrada. And he didn't. He went at Crawford, and Crawford hurt him. And McGill never had it today.
No.
The ball was up. And, boy, you're right. At 4-1 at that point, I felt pretty good. I think on the long-range effect, I think out of that first game, Hobbs' injury is the one thing you have to take out of that game, because now Saturday, who are you going to pitch? Sammy Long. Jelly is pitching tonight in Sacramento. Jacob Junis is there. They got him from Kansas City.
He's a veteran.
Yeah, so he's a swingman. So maybe, but I think the Cobb injury hurt. And then they had chances. Look, they had chances to, to make things happen, and they just didn't come through. Vossler struck out in the 8th inning to end that inning. They had first.
They were 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position in game one. I mean, that's really the stat. That's the stat that jumps out. If you say what happened in game one, that's what happened in game one. They left 9 on base. They went 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position. The costly thing was Cobb, who looked good. Cobb I thought looked pretty decent. 4 1/3, struck out 4, walked nobody. And the Giant bullpen, Leone came on. Alvarez threw an inning, McGee threw an inning, Rogers threw an inning, Doval threw an inning, and they were all shut out. I mean, Mets weren't even getting any hits. The Mets get any hits at all after the 5th inning. I mean, it was like not until eventually Harleen Garcia gave up the game winner to Lindor. Yeah. But ultimately, I think if you're a Giants fan, you look at that game one and you're thinking, man, we just didn't get the timely hit. We're about pitching, defense, good bullpen, and the timely hit. And in game one, they didn't get the timely hit.
No.
Simple as that.
Yep. Duval in the 9th inning, he walks. How about this? He walks the first 2.
Right.
It's New York. He's going to implode here. And then they went out to the mound and had a conference of about 9 people on the mound. It looked like the whole team was on the mound. And then Buck gives up an out. This is interesting the way Buck manages. In baseball today, you don't give up any outs. And he gave up an out. He sacrificed to make it 2nd and 3rd. And the winning run was a 3rd. And then Duval just got Jankowski and got McCann, and he was out of it. And then you think, all right, now we're going into the 10th inning, the ghost runner and all that. And you got Belt on second. And, Flores hits the deep fly to right, and they move him to 3rd. Then the walk to Ruff. Now it's 1st and 3rd. And Crawford popped out. And then Estrada, of course, on the play. How about Lindor's arm? Did you realize the guy's got
he's got a hose. He's got a tremendous arm.
No, he does not. He's got a rag arm. He could barely get the ball to first base.
Well, in the past, he's had a really good arm.
Well, he looks like something's wrong with him then, because he looks more like a second base arm. It's an adventure when he throws it to first base, and that's what happened with Estrada. It's a routine ground ball. He had all the time in the world, and he just yanked it, and that was the end of that 10th inning. That hurt. You knew it was trouble. If you can't score in the top of the 10th, it's trouble. But Lindor had a big day. He had a big day. And even
he's having a big April is what he's having. I don't know if you saw those numbers, what he carried into the series, but I mean, he had huge, gaudy numbers coming into this series.
He had a home run game, a couple of home runs on both sides of the plate. He's a catalyst for this team. What do you think about the Mets, though? What was your take on the Mets?
Well, the Mets were the winners of the offseason. The Mets went and fortified their team and spent a ton of money to do so. Lindor obviously is a great player, one of the best in the game. And they brought in Escobar. Escobar is a solid third baseman. Starling Marte is a really underrated player who played outstanding ball for the A's last year. And then, the Mets went and got I like the Giants pitching, but I would have loved to seen the Giants go after Max Scherzer. And Scherzer wound up in New York, and he's a Hall of Fame pitcher, and he struck out 10 today over 7. He's one of those guys that gets off to fast starts, but I like the Mets. I mean, on paper, they look really, really good. Now, the DeGrom injury clouds their season, and that kind of changes I don't know. I mean, maybe it doesn't change anything, but to me, it changes the kind of dynamic at the top of their rotation that they were trying to get established, with Scherzer and DeGrom being the tone setters. But they got plenty of offense. They got plenty of offense potentially. McNeil hits for an average. Alonso's got power. They've got some interesting bats up and down that lineup. But really, it's they've got really nice starting pitching, and I think they're legit. Now, are they going to be a 100-win team? I don't know. That one's tough to say.
No.
But I think they're a playoff team for sure.
Yeah, they're
What
not.
do you think?
Well, I think Bassett. We'll see him tomorrow against Rodon. Don't forget him, and McGill is off to this great start too.
Yeah,
and we get Carrasco on Thursday, who is a legitimate pitcher. So their starting pitching is legitimate, and their bullpen has some depth to it. That Rodriguez, who came in the first game,
yeah,
he was nasty.
Yeah,
Diaz, he got in trouble, but Diaz has still got the big arm. Lugo's a curveball crazy guy, and he keeps throwing those curveballs. They got a good bullpen.
Yeah, it's a bunch of different looks too.
Yeah,
every guy in their pen's a different look.
Buck knows what he's doing. It's not a young team. Marte, I thought in his first inning when he got on base and stole second, you knew he was going.
Oh, he's like the only guy in baseball. For him, it's like 1985.
Yeah, he was going, and Bart just threw the ball like to second base, and then Marte ended up at third, and then there was a wild pitch that Bart couldn't control, and he ended up scoring. But yeah, the Mets, Escobar's off to a nice start. Robinson Cano looks a little older to me, but basically they're a good team. But Larry, I'll tell you something, and we got to talk about this on the show at some point. The baseball has been deadened. There's no question about it. Pitching is just overwhelming. These starters go 5 innings, and then you got the parade of guys throwing 97, 98, and hitters are in trouble. Did you see the scores today?
It's never been harder to hit. You're facing 3 or 4, sometimes different pitchers, and they're all super live.
If you look at this, I saw the stat today. They did the slash lines from like the 6th inning on, and it's the batting average is 220, on base 285, slugging 313. That's from the 6th inning on of games because these bullpens are overwhelming. Here's the scores today. If you bet the unders today, you did pretty well. 4-3, 4-2, 2-1, 6-5, 7-1, 4-3, 1-0. That's the A's game now. Padres are 3-1. Mariners are 4-1. Braves are 1-0 on the Dodgers. Diamondbacks lose 6-1. Diamondbacks lose 1-0. Mets win 5-4. Mets win 3-1. Cardinals win 5-1. Brewers win 5-2. Nobody got double figures today. Every under probably won today. How about that?
Well, how about the Giants? They got one of the best records in baseball. They look at, just by the first week alone, they look like one of the better teams in the game. They got 5 guys in the lineup today hitting under 216. Yeah. 216. Let's take a call. Eric's on the line with us. Eric, welcome. You're on the Krueg Show with the great Martin Lurie, LLC.
Eric,
are you there, buddy? We're not hearing Eric.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, now we got you. Hey, Eric, what's going on? How are you, man?
Hey, how's it going? This is Eric from Beale Air Force Base.
Of course, we know that. Absolutely, we know it.
What's on your mind, Eric? What did you think of the doubleheader? Obviously, it was a doubleheader sweep at the hand of the Mets.
A little bit of a delay. Can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we get you. Perfect.
Yeah, he's got a delay, so we just got to be patient.
Can you hear us, Eric?
All right. Yeah, with the doubleheader, it was rough. I was hoping we were going to be able to at least split it. But what do you guys think? We got 3 guys who are batting on the interstate. I know Ruff has had a lot of bad luck. He's hitting the ball pretty good. But with Yaz and Duggar, they're having some rough at-bats out there.
They are. I mean, just look at some of those numbers right now, and it's not pretty. Yaz is hitting 167. Ruff's hitting 179. Crawford's hitting 216. Duggar's at 194. Casale's at 167. I mean, that when you got 4 or 5 guys in your lineup hitting under 200, that starts to show and starts to make an impact on your ability to score runs. So, I mean, of that group, I guess you say who's the most concerning? I probably would say Yaz, because last year he had 220 and now here he is hitting 167. And, he was thought to be a minor league baseball player for a number of years. And then all of a sudden he had kind of a bust out with the Giants over a couple of year span. And all of a sudden, now people are seeing him through kind of a different prism. As far as the other guys, I think Ruff will get it going. He's too good of a hitter not to. Duggar's a defensive player. Casale's a backup catcher. His numbers are going to be down. Crawford, I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, he's had some good contact. He's just getting some unlucky outs.
But I don't know. What do you think, Marty, of the group of Giant hitters that are all under 215 right now? Who's the guy that concerns you?
Well, I would think Crawford concerns me just a little bit. Look, it's only 11 games. They haven't had 50 at bats yet. So, let's just talk about where they are now. But for Crawford, he didn't have a good spring training either. He didn't get a hit till the last couple of games. And it looks like he's slowed down a little bit at the plate. Maybe it was the weather, maybe the age of being in a doubleheader. But I agree with you. I think it's Yastrzemski. He's got power, and it looked like he got that last one. I thought it was going out, and the wind knocked it down. So he's still showing some power. But he's a leadoff hitter, Larry. And you can't hit 190 as a leadoff hitter. The Giant leadoff hitters are some of the worst in baseball right now. So they got to get it going. Now, Lamont Wade is going to come back. La Stella is going to come back. Longoria is going to come back. So the offense could take a different look. But for right now, I'd say Yaz to me is the problem.
One of the things that's jumped out to me is that Belt and Peterson to some degree, and a little bit of Tyro Estrada, but mostly Belt, carrying this Giant team offensively, absolutely carrying the team. And it kind of, Belt has always reminded me of Jack Clark in that, incredibly patient. And when he takes a called third, you're like incredibly passive hitter. But when he draws walks, you're sitting there going, hey, man, this guy's tough to pitch to. And then same thing that with Jack, when he got hot, could carry the Giants for 2 weeks at a time. This is the late 1970s. Belt is very similar. I mean, he seriously, when he gets hot, he can literally carry a baseball team. Yeah, and that's what I've seen in this first month of the year. How are the Giants doing it? I mean, coming into the series, the Giants were tied with the Dodgers, best record in baseball. They were doing it with a starting rotation that has 2 aces and has been totally dominant, a deep and versatile bullpen that they can play matchup games with, and a red-hot Brandon Belt. So that has camouflaged the fact that there are half dozen hitters in this lineup that aren't carrying their weight. And so, you can only ask Belt to carry a team for so long. He did it for a week. Can he do it for 2? Can he do it for 3? Eventually, as Marty said, some of these other guys are going to have to hit the mix and kind of start to contribute. And I don't know how it's going to go. La Stella's got the Achilles. Longoria is long in the tooth. What the question I guess I would have is, what can we reasonably expect out of the veterans who all had big years last year? Posey retired. Belt was huge last year in limited at-bats. Crawford was incredible last year. Are some of these guys going to come back to earth? The Giants kind of built this lineup, Marty, with the idea that the veterans who had career renaissance years last year were going to continue that career renaissance. And maybe that was asking too much. Maybe that was not the best approach. What do you think, Marty? Of the veterans who really swung it last year, do we see regression from Crawford, regression from Ruff? What do you think?
Well, I think they changed the baseball. Number one, I think that's a big difference. It's in a humidor. They've deadened the ball. They're not hitting home runs as a league. Singles are down. Everything is down except for strikeouts and stuff like that. So I think the ball has a lot to do with it. And if these older players, Belt and Crawford are older players, are facing 97 every day, it's going to wear them down. So I was surprised that Belt played first base in the second game. Why not have him DH and put Ruff at first base? You know, how many balls were hit past first base today? There are a number of Belton can't move right now. You know, his knee allows him to hit and do a few things, but he can't move. So I think they have to start resting these guys and not push them. And the other thing is, look, Larry, why are they doing so well? Because they got the second best pitching in baseball. The bullpen, as you point out, in the second game was 4 1/3 of like one hit ball.
Yeah.
In the second game, the first game, the bullpen was essentially terrific until Garcia, and in the 10th inning. So they got to keep pitching because that's the name of the game today. But I think there's some age here. And look, I would have played Slater in the game. Now I know Scherzer's a Hall of Famer, so you want to have your best players out there. But I would have put the youth in there. I would have had Slater in there. I would have had Dubon in there. I maybe had Bart as a DH or something like that. They needed some youth in that second game. They looked tired.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of a thinner team. I mean, when you take out the guys that you lost from a year ago, and then compile that with the injuries that you have, you've got a thinner roster here in April. And after a few games, you start to see that certain guys need a rest. Certain guys, if without a rest, are going to slow down.
They have to.
Let's hit a little bit of the chat. Eric, you got a quick last thought before we clear the line?
I think he's gone.
Oh, is he gone? Okay, no problem. But it opens up a line, and once again, we should put the banner back up there with the phone number. But it is we'll give you the number once again, 510-823-0534, 510-823-0534. Stupid Child says this on the text. He says, Marty, Larry, your thoughts on Elliot Ramos. Were you surprised that they shipped out Ramos so early and that they didn't give him, they really didn't give him a lot of at-bats when he was here?
Well, this is the way they play. It's okay. He'll be back, but they were facing all the right-handed pitching, and they're strictly a platoon team, righty-lefty, depending who the pitcher is. So you got
the outfield, 100%.
Yeah, and you got 4 righties with the Mets. You're going to see 1 lefty this weekend with Corbin, and then here come the A's. When you come in Milwaukee, is probably going to be a righty in that one, and you're probably going to see a righty in the A series. I'm sure Frankie Montas will be ready for the Giants. So he wasn't going to play. So you might as well have him in the minor leagues. But that's the way they do it. And Larry, they've won 114 games.
Why is it such accepted that a right-handed hitter can't hit a right-handed pitcher?
That's the way they play. Look at Slater.
So is that what he is? He's a guy. He's a hitter can only hit lefties. Really?
Well, he's young.
I mean, that's kind of a neat trick. That's a little specialist thing. So he's a right-handed young hitter, but he's so bad against right-handed pitching that he can't get in that bat against a right-handed pitcher. 3/4 of the people in the world are right-handed.
I agree. I'd give him a chance. Why not? Let the kid play. At some point, they have to let him play, and I agree with you. I'd let him play.
Yeah.
But that's the way
they're slow playing him. They're slow playing him. They don't want him to get overwhelmed. I get the idea. They
don't want him to be 2 for 20. They McGill and Bassett and Carrasco and all these people, they were going to eat him up, and they didn't want that. But not necessarily. He's a real talent, and at some point to win, you have to have people have the surprise years, and last year everybody did. Now the question for you is, who's going to have a surprise year out of this bunch that's going to lead the pack here? Who's the one that you said, I didn't see that coming? It's
a great question, Marty. But it also kind of begs the question, if you have a bunch of hitters who are swinging it, that's one thing. But you got 5 or 6 guys that are hitting under 214. And I'd like to see Ramos take a few at bats against righties before I'm going to freely admit that he just can't do it. Raider Rob is on the line. Raider Rob, welcome. You're on the Krueg Show, starring the one and only Martin Lurie, LLC. What's up, Raider Rob?
I think there's a delay.
There appears to be a delay. Raider Rob, can you hear us?
Hey, Larry. Hey, Marty. A long time listener to both of you. You guys do an awesome job.
Appreciate it. What's on your mind?
Delay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. What's on your mind?
Just wanted to state that I think that Farhan made a huge miscalculation.
Okay. With?
There's a huge delay, by the way.
Yeah, there is. We apologize for that. If we can rectify that, we will.
In the sense that I think that he should have signed at least one big bat this offseason. I think that relying on old school vets that are coming off that renaissance year that you mentioned was a huge mistake.
I tend to agree, and it's like, Marty and I don't do shock radio. We don't do, the Emperor has no clothes. These were things that
Ramos get playing time every single day and maybe sign a Michael Conforto.
Conforto had an injury, though. I'm not sure what his status is physically, but they definitely could use one. I mean, this is the thing. I can't think of my entire lifetime. I can't think of an entire team where the entire outfield was lefty-righty games of platoon. Now, I remember one year Earl Weaver had Benny Ayala, John Lowenstein, and Gary Renicky all sharing left for the Brewers. And they had a bunch of platoons with some veterans and some younger players. And, the great Earl Weaver made weaved it all together and made it happen. But as a rule, I can't remember a baseball team where the center fielder, the right fielder, and the left fielder, there was not an everyday outfielder in one of those three spots. And Marty, that appears to be what they're trying to do. I mean, Peterson's going to play against righties. Slater's going to play against lefties. I guess Yaz, if he was a little bit more consistent, might be the guy that would play every day. Maybe Duggar, because of the defense, may get the opportunity to play every day. That's kind of why I wanted to see Ramos against righties, because to me, Ramos on paper was one of only a couple of guys who really could even consider being an everyday outfielder. So I was hoping Ramos would be that guy.
Yeah, Ramos should be here instead of Dubon.
Yeah.
Dubon is taking up space, and he's worthless right now because they're not using him. So
Right.
There's no reason to have him here. Ramos could be in that spot, and therefore then you could use him the way we're talking. You can put him in here, put him in there, and start to give him at bats. Look, this is April. You want to see Ramos in August after he's had 200 at bats or 250 at bats, and then see what you have, because their pitching is solid.
Oh, absolutely.
Their pitching is going to keep them in this thing. The bullpen is outstanding. This is a playoff team, unless the offense just goes completely south. So to answer Raider Rob, yeah, Ramos should be here and Dubon shouldn't.
Yeah. Somebody's asking about Luke Williams, Marty. Bring back Luke Williams. I mean, I don't even know what Luke Williams is, but
the right-handed hitter.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some decent at bats. I'll say that he's a
platoon hitter. If they throw a lefty, Luke Williams comes in. Now, I thought maybe they would bring a lefty the Mets would bring a lefty in tonight because they had Belt and Peterson and Crawford and all that. I thought they'd bring a lefty in to face them, but they didn't. They went with that Drew Smith, and then they went with Trevor May. And then I said to myself, all right, if Buck goes to a lefty, he didn't have Rodriguez, so he'd have to bring in another lefty. Then here comes Slater. Here comes Luke Williams. Here comes Flores. And Buck wouldn't bite. And Williams never got an at bat. because there was no left-handed pitcher on there.
Who's replacing Alex Cobb? We kind of brushed on it for just a second. I gotta think Cobb because of the right groin strain.
Yeah,
Probably.
He's on the DL. He went
Yeah.
on the DL already.
Okay, so how many starts do you think a guy like that misses? This is a tricky injury. This is one of these injuries where if you pull it once, maybe you can get back on the field, but if it's a recurring thing, now you could lose him for half the year. So they got to be really careful. What's your guess?
21 days.
3 weeks.
I've seen this a million times. It's 21 days, and if they try to fool around with him, he's had hip surgery. He's had this injury before. He's had a concussion. He's had all sorts of stuff happen to him. The guy's medical history says, okay, something may happen. So I'd say 20. He doesn't look like a quick healer. I'd say 21 days. And Jelly pitched tonight in Sacramento. Junis is available on Friday. He's supposed to pitch in Sacramento.
Right.
And the other one is Sammy Long. He looked all right tonight. He had the curve.
He's looked pretty good in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and the command of it. And he pitched tonight, which is Tuesday. So he could have 3 days off, and they could throw him in there on Saturday. And then the other guy is, who I always joke with you, is Beatty. And last time I asked if he's still on the team, and then he pitched the next day. Well, maybe Beatty, but I think it's going to be Junis or Sammy Long.
Let's see if I can go to. We have a donation here from Romo 2001. Let me see if I can get his actual thing on the. There we go. I remember Marty had a guest on his show a few years ago about players who are carriers on a team. Posey was the carrier. The Giants are missing that. I used to. It's funny. Everybody uses different verbiage. I like to refer them as bus drivers versus bus riders. Yeah, but it's the same kind of concept. Yeah, some guys drive the bus, and other guys are along for the ride.
We called them contributors and carriers,
which sounds so much better.
And the brilliant man, and he's such a good man who came up with this, is Greg Orr, O-H-R. He was a
former scout of the Yankees.
Yep. I love Greg.
Good man. I love Greg Orr.
His son was athletic director at St. Mary's, and
Greg
Orr is so smart, and he taught me that. He said you got to have some carriers. You got to have some people that carry the team. Now, baseball is different today. Runs are down, so you got to build that pitching staff first. But at some point, you got to hit a little more. And I'll say it again. It's fun to talk about it. There's 74, 11 games. They've had 34 at-bats. You got to wait for 100 at-bats and 40 games, and then you get concerned. So we got a long way to go.
Yeah, I'm looking for my banner that says they just don't. Oh, here we go. This is always a good one. Bye-bye, Salinas. That's for you, Gary. We can do the taking calls right now, 510-823-0534. But I used to have a banner in here that said, they just don't hit. They don't hit. And how many times has that topic come up through the years? But it is interesting. Somebody's asking, can we get Farhan on the show? And I will make an effort to get Farhan on the show. And Farhan's a pretty good guy, so I would imagine at some point he probably will come on the show. But that the Giants' challenge is offensively. I mean, they did a pretty nice job in the rotation. Sean Jelly. I'm eager to see what Sean Jelly looks like in the big leagues because he's a 6'10" righty, so that right there is a different look. And then you have a guy who kind of, because of his height, throws from a downhill plane, and even though he doesn't throw as hard as like a young Randy Johnson, it looks. I have a feeling he's going to get a lot of swing and miss up here because he's so compact. And he's coming from such a downhill plane. I don't think hitters realize that the ball's right on top of them until it is. So I'm eager to see. Maybe I'll be wrong on that, but to me, it seems like Jelly might be an interesting arm that can have success here. What do you think? You've probably seen him more than I have.
Yeah, we hope so. It's a small sample size, and he's got to show in AAA that he can dominate AAA and show command. Not just those strikes, but command. and that's Scherzer. Scherzer has command. Logan Webb did not have a good game tonight at all, and he looked tired. Maybe the 8 innings in the last start, maybe the cold weather. To me, it looked like he never got loose. There was no fastball tonight.
No.
Everything was a sinker, trying sliders, and he had no command of anything. And that's why he got his first loss in, 24 starts. But Jelly, we'll see. If he doesn't make it, he'll be very good in the Winter Basketball League that the Giants have.
It is interesting how baseball, series to series. I mean, look at the difference between the Mets and the Guardians. Guardians are, Jose Ramirez and Miles Straw and a bunch of kids.
You're done.
They got
Jose
nothing.
Ramirez is it. Stop right there.
I like the kid Straw, and they probably got a couple other players, but it's a super, super young team. Now they fly to New York. They take on the Mets. The Mets, outside of the Giants and Dodgers, may be, they may be one of the best teams in the game. They've got tremendous talent. They really do. And they've had an incredible offseason. It's a totally my point is just that from one series to the next, you're seeing the disparity in talent and preparedness. The Mets are a veteran team that's ready to win now. Cleveland is a young team that you almost don't even need to show up with your best, players, and you can, they put up very little resistance over the weekend. Now you go to New York, you're playing a real team. It's a major step up in class.
Yeah, look, they played the Padres, who are a mess right now without Tatis. They played the Marlins, and they played Cleveland. And now they're playing the Mets, and the Mets are a more solid baseball team. They've got a starting rotation. They got a bullpen, and they got some clutch hits today. McNeil got a huge hit. Lindor had a big day today. As goofy as I think he is on defense, he had a big day at the plate today. And, they're a good team. Now they're going to get the Brewers Monday. But this weekend, they get Washington. And, they should wipe up Washington. They should be one of those teams that the Giants go in and take the series or sweep the series. That's the way this weekend should go. And then it's the A's for a couple. And, then Washington comes in again. So I still say in the first 31, I predicted 20-11. And I'm still pretty comfortable with that, or 21-10, something like that.
Stephen J says Cleveland's going to win 75 games, if that. They may not win 75 games.
I mean, they're pitching, Plesac and Quantrell were nice, but they don't have put-away pitches. They had the Giants in 2-strike counts all weekend. They couldn't put them away. And then the guy Sunday gave up, his home run city with him.
Stupid Child says the Giants have money and prospects to make things happen, though. And he's absolutely right. I'll say this, Marty. I saw an article in Bleacher Report. You might have seen the same article. Just came out this week. And it was talking about, a fast forward look ahead to the middle of the season when, trades get made and that kind of thing. And they were proposing a number of trades and throwing names around. The name that they threw to the Giants was Josh Bell. And Josh Bell's interesting. He had kind of a down year last year, but he's bounced back. He's a switch hitter. He's got tremendous power. You mentioned the Nationals. They're going nowhere. The Nationals are in a full rebuild. Josh Bell might be an interesting name for the Giants to acquire middle of the year. As I said, switch hitter. He might be a guy, they don't need a first baseman. They've got Brandon Belt, but if you're just looking for a middle of the order presence who can help you against righties and lefties and maybe be an everyday guy in the middle of that lineup as you try to juggle the rest of it with platoons, maybe a guy like Bell could help him out. What do you think of that fit?
I don't like it.
You don't like Josh Bell?
No, there's nowhere to place. Where are you going to put him?
DH.
Well, you got all these guys. You've got this whole crowd of people. What are you going to do with all these other people? You got
true.
Rupp, all right, if you want to make him a full-time DH, be my guest, but that's it. There's no other place for him. I still think, and you said it, I still think they need an outfielder. They need a legitimate center fielder, a guy who can lead off and do some damage. And then we got to look at Yastrzemski. If we get to July and the guy's still hitting, 205 with 6 home runs, you got to think a Starling Marte type. that type of player, someone who can make a difference. But yeah, I'd look to the.
I'll throw you a name. What do you think of Cedric Mullins?
Young, right? The Orioles. I haven't
Orioles
seen
center
have you
fielder,
seen enough of
pretty good
him?
hitter. Pretty good hitter.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. He's a step above Slater and Yastrzemski. He's a little bit more grounded than those two as far as having a baseball card. At least for last year, he was an all-star. Yeah, that's a possibility.
What are you hearing from the Giants about Matthew Boyd? What's his timeline, Marty? I mean, I thought that was a real nice pickup for the Giants because they got a starting pitcher who may be a guy who can really help them. In some ways, they got a guy who would have been a perfect midseason acquisition, but they've got him on the DL and they're just kind of waiting for him to get healthy.
Yeah.
What's the word on when he may get healthy?
July, middle of
July.
the year. Yeah, something like that. And, look, you got to worry about, he threw Rodon out there for, 7 innings and 90 tough pitches. And I kept saying, well, where's he going to be in August? And guys like Matthew Boyd, Jacob Junis, maybe Jelly, Sammy Long, these people are going to have to, pick up some of the starts. So I would think you're looking probably for Matthew Boyd in July or August. Something like that.
How long do you know the answer to this question? How long is baseball going with 28-man rosters?
Yeah, till May 1st.
May 1st?
Yeah.
So I would imagine that's going to affect two guys I'm thinking of, Sammy Long and Tyler Beede. Who would you feel more comfortable plugging into Cobb's spot in the rotation if Farhan came to you and said, you know what, we're going to give Beede or Long first crack? Who would you vote for there?
Long. They don't trust Beede. I mean, Long's been
Beaty's command is kind of iffy.
Well, they don't trust him, so there must be a reason. Beaty's got to go pitch somewhere.
Right. And but he's out of options.
I know you're hoping when May 1st comes that they can sneak him through and be able to do that or put him on the DL or do something. But he would be the second guy for me. Long, at least they put him in somewhat leveraged situations, somewhat closer games, and he has performed.
What do you think of the idea? I mean, the A's are sitting there with Frankie Montas. They moved Mania. They're clearly going to move Montas at some point, and they're going to want ready guys right now. What do you think of like Sammy Long and Tyler Beede, 2-for-1 in a deal for Frankie Montas? What do you think of Montas coming to the Giants? The Giants clearly have enough money to afford him. They're in a go mode right now. This is their year. To me, that would be a win-win. The A's get a couple of young arms that they could plug into the rotation, making a major league minimum, and probably one of the two of those guys emerges as a decent starter. And for the Giants, they get kind of a more certain starter. And maybe you could get a bat with it, maybe a Chad Pinder or something like that. What do you think of Billy and Farhan cooking up a deal? To me, it just seems like Montas is a horse, and Montas is a guy who really could make an impact on the Giant rotation, and maybe allow you to move DeSclafani or Wood in the short term, kind of that long man, swing man position in the bullpen, and then you don't have to worry about your rotation. Because otherwise, I mean, the middle of the year, they may need not just hitting, but maybe some pitching as well. What do you think of Montas?
Well, I love Montas. He's an all-star. He's a real pitcher.
He's a power pitcher.
Yeah, when he's on, there's no problem. If the A's traded Montas for, who'd you say, Beede and Long?
Well, I'm saying Beede and Long and maybe a better young prospect arm. Maybe there's three arms kind of a thing.
They would be taking Billy Beane and forced away in a net.
Would their 14 fans have an uprising in Vegas somewhere?
Please, I mean, it's absurd.
Would Towney come after me?
It can't happen. But they don't need pitching. They need offense. They've got enough pitching, Larry.
Oh, I feel that way too. But
they've got.
They're always thinking the other way. They're always thinking pitching.
I know, but look, they got Logan Webb. They got Rodon. That they got DeSclafani, they got Wood. Cobb is hurt now, but he's not going to be out forever. And they have some players around that. Your fifth starter shouldn't be the difference from you winning a pennant and not winning a pennant. And he should only be able to save the bullpen every fifth day. And they got enough pitching. They need some bats. They
I
need
hear
some
you.
legitimate bats in this lineup. And, you know, as I say, it's only 35 at bats. If we get to 100 and we're still talking about it, then you got to be concerned a little bit.
Romo 2001 has donated some money here. He said the Giants whiffed on signing Seiya Suzuki. He can flat hit. And I added the flat. He just said he can hit. I wanted the flat, so add a little more emphasis. Seiya Suzuki looks terrific. He looks terrific. Does he not?
He's off to a great start.
Yeah.
You know, he gets on base every game. He's got, I think he tied for the longest hitting streak of a Japanese player to start a career in the United States. And he looks like a guy who can play. I haven't watched him enough to really tell you anything.
I haven't either, but the highlights sure look good, man. He goes out, you know, he'll hit it out to left, he'll hit it out to right. Stephen Jace is not giving up any more prospects. Anyone would want Marco Luciano and Luis Matos. I agree. I mean, those guys, you know,
don't have to give them up.
Yeah, here's the beauty of baseball. I don't even think those guys even get asked about because everybody knows that you're not trading your top three prospects.
Look, the way trades are today, and, you know, if you give up Max Scherzer, what are you going to get? You're going to get the 5th prospect, the 14th prospect, and the 28th prospect. That's it. Nobody trades it. Baseball's so different now. It used to be, yes, you trade your, you know, the number 1 prospect for a big player.
Right.
Never again. It's just the analytics tell you don't do it.
Don't do it.
The control of young players is more important. If you can get one extra piece that will put you over the top, then maybe you'll give up a prospect in the top 6. But you're not giving up anything at the top of your organization. It does not happen.
It doesn't happen. Todd McLean says Brian Reynolds. Oh, wait, we traded him to Pittsburgh. Not only that, Todd, he just re-upped in Pittsburgh. That's kind of been the trend this month. Jose Ramirez, a lot of talk that he was going to get dealt. Cleveland re-upped him. Reynolds, a lot of talk that Pittsburgh was going to move Reynolds. They re-upped him. This is kind of the way of the world right now. There's enough money in the game to pay these guys and keep them instead of trading them. So I think that's probably better for the sport overall. It doesn't help the Giants, but I think it's good for the sport that these guys don't get dealt.
What about great baseball moments? Did you see Freddie Freeman last night?
Oh, yes.
His first at bat against the Braves? Come on.
How about that? Goes yard.
Noah throw him a fastball up and away, and he just took it to left center field like he's done a million times, and he hits a home run against the Braves in his first at bat. Come on.
Unbelievable. I mean, and those kinds of things in baseball happen a lot.
I love
Doesn't
it.
it seem like it?
Yeah.
You know, guys succeed against their former club. You know, it's funny. Yeah. You know, somebody says here, who traded Duvall and Reynolds? Was it Bobby Evans or Sabian? Well, whatever. Either way, it was Bobby Evans, I think, was the general manager. Duvall got I forget who Duvall went for. Who did Duvall get dealt for? Was that a Reds trade? Did he go to the Reds?
Yeah, it was the.
Was it Mike Leake?
Yeah, that's it.
Mike Leake.
Yeah, very good memory.
Duvall went to Cincy for Mike Leake.
Then
and then Reynolds was for Andrew McCutchen, and that was the bad trade because could you imagine the Giants right now with Brian Reynolds? That's what in some ways, Marty, he's exactly what they need.
They traded Stratton and Reynolds, and now these are the 2 number 1 picks. So what are you telling your scouts? We drafted these guys number 1, but I'm sorry, they're both going to go for a guy who's 34 years old.
The face that you see on the right is the great Dan Coach Emilio. Dan, how are you?
Good. I don't know what's happening to my screen, though. I'm
okay. Well, we'll do this. We'll put Danny back in the green room. Hold on, Danny. We'll put you back in the green room. We'll see if we can.
Yeah, he's psychedelic.
he was having some issues there. Danny's. We'll see if we can get you right. Technical support is on their way. Stupid Child says Tyler Beatty back to Boston. I'll say this, Marty. I would be very, very worried about trading Tyler Beatty. He throws 98.
Yep.
You know, he throws 98. He's a smart kid. He's got a huge frame.
Yep.
He's not old. I don't know about that one. I would be
pitch. He's one of my let the kids play. And I
right.
said in 2011 when Crawford and Belt were here, I said, let him play. Let this guy pitch somewhere. Let him pitch. You can't sit this guy in the bullpen and forget about him. He's got to pitch somewhere.
I mean, look at his role right now. What he is, what he's strictly mop up, or
you're losing 8-1 and it's a fourth inning. Tyler, can you give us 3?
He's an up 8, down 8 guy for the first round draft choice.
Yeah,
I mean,
they don't have room for him. Their pitching is superior. There's no place to put him.
Yeah,
Their pitching is superior. They're going to wipe up any team that's weak with that pitching because they're going to just go right through the lineup and they're going to score enough runs to win those games. They're going to wipe up any of these teams that are weak. They're going to have trouble with the Dodgers, probably the Padres, probably the Brewers, maybe the Cardinals a little bit. But Atlanta, probably it's going to be more competitive. And the Mets are okay. I mean, their lineup is okay. It's not.
I think they're better than that. I think they're not. I think the
not
Mets
the
are
Dodgers.
going to win.
I'll tell you that the Dodger lineup is the best in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Giants and the Dodgers are the 2 best teams in the National League, and I think the Mets are a distant 3rd or 4th.
Okay.
Robert Rothberg says the Giants will win the next 2 and split the series. He's going glass half full. What do you see? What do you see the rest of the series? What are their matchups the rest of the way here?
Rodon tomorrow. You got the lefty going tomorrow. That turns Lindor around. Lindor can't hit from the right side. You neutralize McNeil. So you got Rodon tomorrow.
And he'll be there. Rothberg says it here. He says Rodon will be our stopper tomorrow. I don't think there's any doubt.
Bassett. Now, Bassett has been terrific. The former A. He's been terrific. Then,
now we bring back Danny Cochemilio. Danny, how are you? Can you hear us?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
I can't even hear myself. I don't know what's going on with my technical stuff tonight. I'm talking, but I don't hear I don't hear you guys at all.
Oh, really? No, you don't hear us at all.
Let me see what's going on.
Let's do this.
Here.
Let's put Danny back we'll put Danny back in the green room.
Let Danny say what he wants to say, and we'll give him a thumbs up.
Okay. He can't hear us, so I can't even prompt him with a Danny, this is what you do. This is an interesting one. Rebel 444. I still want Whit Merrifield. Has there ever been a player who's been rumored to be traded as long as Whit Merrifield has been rumored to be leaving Kansas City? That guy has been rumored to be on the trade block for 5 years. He's like 33 now.
I was going to say, he's not a kid anymore. The whole thing is they kind of made their bed with these players, and it's just too early in the season to maneuver.
Yeah, as far as major maneuvers, I'm with you, Marty. But you never know. I'll give you a name in Kansas City that I really like. I like Andrew Benintendi, who's playing really well right now. And he's a damn good hitter. And he's a versatile outfielder who can play a bunch of different spots. He can hit. So that, to me, he's an interesting guy, Benintendi.
City now?
Andrew Benintendi. Benny Biceps, they called him.
Kansas City. Yeah,
Kansas City, yeah.
Guys, you've been on him for years.
Yeah, I like him. Mets lineup is better than the Giants lineup right now. Simple as that, according to Jason.
I agree. It is. It's a more established lineup, but it's no picnic. Believe me. They're not going to make you forget the Dodgers or someone like that. They're okay. They're okay. Alonso hasn't done anything yet.
No, he'll warm up when the weather does.
Yeah, it's March.
Let me ask you this, Marty. How much do you think? I mean, and this is a hard thing for me to ask you, but how much do you think the weather plays a factor? It was 30-something degrees in Cleveland, and it's cold in New York. These guys were just in Arizona. What do you think? I mean, it's not an excuse, but do you think the cold weather is contributing to some of the cold bats?
Yes, I do.
So.
And I think he affected Belt and Crawford tonight. And Peterson looked like, he was wearing the big ski mask thing, so he was freezing. But he had some good at-bats tonight. But for Belt and Crawford, they looked older to me, and they looked cold, and they didn't need to play 18 innings in New York today.
We go back to our third box for Danny Coach Amelia. Dan, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
All right, we got you.
All
Danny,
right.
of course, know Marty. Marty,
Yeah,
Dan. So,
absolutely.
Dan, give me your thoughts. The Giants got swept in the doubleheader. The sky's falling. I'm just here so Marty won't rip everybody.
Well,
if you believe that, you can believe anything. But come on, give me your rundown on the doubleheader. It was obviously a tough day for the Giants, but it's one day.
Yeah, it is a tough day. When that play in the fifth inning of the first game on the overturned call at first base, that was a bang play. It could have gone either way. I think the fact that he was called out should have remained out. I thought the ball was in the back of the glove as he was hitting first base. It was, like I said, it could have went either way. Since he was called out on the field, I think they should have kept it. I don't think there was conclusive evidence that he was safe. And the same thing in the 10th inning when Estrada beat that out, or he pulled his foot. It looked like it was an eyelash, whether it was on or off the bag. You usually, if it's inconclusive, you go with the call on the field. And when the play happened in the fifth inning, the double play, and really the play that Cobb got hurt, it just felt like when they tied it up, it just felt like it was going to go the Mets' way from that point on, because the Giants, Duvall, he got himself into a big jam, but he got out of it. Second and third with one out, I believe. He walked the first couple of guys.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of good that came out of it. Duvall getting out of that jam was good. He threw a really nice slider to Freeze. I don't remember who it was, but got him on a called strike three. I think it was for the second out. And then he struck out the last guy, I think, too. So there was some good stuff that came out of it. But I think the problem right now is hitting, as you guys have been thoroughly discussing. And I believe something's coming by May 4th when the rosters go to 26. Wade's supposed to start a rehab assignment this weekend. If he spends a week down at Sacramento, that should be enough to get his timing, and he'll be up. And then you're going to have to, on May 4th, go to 26. So Longoria is due back about the 10th of May. That's 6 weeks, maybe a week later if he needs a rehab. So I expect Longoria mid-May. Wade is going to come up. Lestella's rehabbing. He's starting to run. There's 3 guys that are going to come back that are going to be in the lineup. They're going to use them. They're not going to bench and sit all 3 of those guys. So what happens is possibly Yaz, there could be a possible deal coming. Yaz has got to start hitting. He crushed that ball in the 9th or the 8th, was whatever tonight off of that was gone off the bat. He crushed that thing. That wind was howling and pushing everything back. But
I think you make a good point, Dan, because I think you've kind of highlighted the fact that there may need to be a tough decision made here in the outfield, because they do have, it's a numbers game. Right now they're playing with some extra numbers, but eventually the roster is going to get whittled down, and then it's a matter of what can they do? What can they do? Who can they move?
Well, Duggar has an option, and so he's definitely going down.
But he's also your best defensive center fielder by far.
Well, Yaz can play center. Yeah, but Yaz can play center, and Slater can play center. We saw that last year a lot. So with the options, I don't think this club is going to just release guys. It's not Farhan's style. So something is going to happen. And with Cobb going down tonight, I'm thinking Beatty gets the start Saturday, and here's why. I don't think he'll go long. He might be able to go 3 innings, and then maybe Sammy Long pitches 2 or 3. They just want to get to the 5th or 6th inning. But Beatty's got a showcase. he's either got a showcase for the Giants or for
trade.
another team.
Yeah.
And they're not going to just sit him and then release him when the rosters get reduced to 40 or 26.
I agree.
So,
I agree with Dan on that one, Marty. That Beatty will probably get that start as a showcase start, either a showcase for his spot on the roster or a showcase for a trade. I agree with Dan as well. I don't think they're going to release Tyler Beatty. So, and I do think there's enough of a need around baseball that even though Beatty has some command issues, there's no doubt in my mind they could trade him. I think I don't know what they would get in return, but I know there would be a team out there, maybe multiple teams, that have interest in a young pitcher with that kind of upside. And there will and there are, let's be honest, there are teams around the game whose their position and where they're at in their development, they have a greater ability to be patient with Tyler Beatty than the Giants have been patient with Tyler Beatty. They've had him for a number of years. He's had a major surgery. They rehabbed him through it. He's now back. They were hoping that he would have a big spring. His spring was kind of iffy. He displayed incredible stuff, but once again, kind of inconsistent command. But I think there's a trade coming. I really do. I think Beatty will probably be the guy traded out of town. That's my guess. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. This one says when Yaz gets hot, he can carry the team. Well, when was the last time he was hot? When was the last time Yaz was really hot?
He hit 25 home runs or something last year, didn't he? 25.
Yeah, 25, yeah.
But I mean, 220. But I don't know. When you're south of 230, I kind of don't really factor the homers.
But in today's game, they love the home run, and he has a pretty good eye. They still get deep in the pitching count. They're still doing that. They grind it out. They play the game. I want to tell you, they steal bases. They bunt. They're really pushing the game, and I think the weather had a lot to do with Cleveland and today. And I think we have to keep that in mind. But they push the envelope, and he can run a little bit. And it's just too early. It's too early.
It's definitely too early. I mean, if you look at last year's record after 11 games, what were they? Guess what they were?
Last year after 11 games, I'll say 5-6.
Well, they were 7-4, just like they are tonight. Sitting at 7-4, then they won the next game, and then they were 8-5, and then 8-6, and then they kind of started to take off a little bit. So it's early, as Marty said. After 30 games, you hope them to be 20-11, 21-10, somewhere in that range. When they started this 11-game road trip, I looked at the schedule and saw that it's 11 games in 11 days, and no days off, and they got to stop for one game in Milwaukee next week. And I thought if they could come out of that 7-4, that would be great. And now, 6-5 would be good. I mean, they're 3-2. They still got 6 games left. Tomorrow they're throwing Rodon, so they have a good shot. I mean, they are facing Bassett, but I like their pitching. I think their pitching is very deep and solid, as Marty said. That pitching's gonna carry them. They need a strong bat. I was really hoping in the offseason that they would get a catalyst type guy in center field. Someone that would.
Who are you thinking of?
Well, originally I was thinking of Sterling Marte in the offseason.
Yeah.
That's who I thought would be a great leadoff guy that switch hits. And
I had him last year.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He's that much of a difference maker.
Oh, he's a tremendous player. And they may have shown some interest in him. His market may have exploded. They have a price. It's interesting. They have a price that they will assign value to a certain player. And if the market exceeds their value proposition, they move off. That's it. They will not. I mean, to me, the biggest shock was that they were interested in Trevor Story, and then Story went for $140 million. Guys, I think the Giants dodged a huge bullet there. Who would you rather have right now? 6 years and 140 at Trevor Story, who's a career 240 hitter out of Coors Field, or Tyro Estrada and what he's given you offensively and defensively at basically the major league minimum? Now you
yeah.
still have your financial flexibility, and you haven't traded any prospects, and you haven't given away the farm as far as budget. I mean, I'd like to have another offensive player. Don't get me wrong, and I think they need to make an addition, but I think they dodged the bullet there. I didn't like Trevor. I wouldn't want the Giant. If you said you could have the Trevor Story right now for 6 years and 140 million, would you take him? Nope. How do you guys
Not
feel?
over. I wouldn't over Estrada.
I wouldn't either.
Because I think Trevor Story, if you look at his splits, his big stats came in Colorado. He wasn't a great hitter on the road.
They dodged one there, Marty. What do you think? I mean, do you think they were ever close on Story?
Well, they probably, as they like to say, kicked the tires on him, but they weren't going to pay that kind of dough. They're not paying that kind of money out. They have farm system players coming. They don't want to block anybody, and they won 107 games with this mentality. You're not throwing it out the window and say, okay, we can't use Estrada, we can't use DeBon, we can't use LaStella, let's go get a new second baseman. They weren't going to do that. They came very close to knocking the Dodgers off and maybe winning a World Series. So they like it. They like what they got. But what you guys said, Dan, too, is what about DeBon? What is he doing now? I mean, he's taking up a spot. Maybe he goes,
Well,
He'd
he
be
could
traded
one.
too. He's another guy who would probably have a market. There's teams that would want Mauricio DeBon. I mean, he's got bat speed. There's some versatility there. There's some upside. But to me, everything that he does, there's somebody on this team that does what he does better than him. So I'm not really a DeBon fan. Then mix in the circus that he is on the base paths, and it's like, no way.
If you use
what's that?
If you have them, you have to use these players. And that's why I say, when I saw the lineup in the second game, I said to myself, boy, why is Belt out there again? It's 35 degrees.
Because he's carrying the team offensively, Marty. That's why. Because they're hurting offensively.
Let him DH a second.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
There used to be a first baseman. I'll drop something on here. Ted Kluszewski. And
cut off the sleeves.
Yeah, when I grew up, Ted Kluszewski. And if you look up his fielding average was one of the best in baseball. And the reason why was he never moved. He just stood there. And
he had no range.
Nothing. He just never – and I kind of get the feeling in that second game, Belt was like a statue. And I just felt that he should not have been out there. And I think they should have used the young players. And again, look, Scherzer almost no-hit him. Even with this lineup, can you imagine what he would have done to, guys who maybe were not as experienced? But I think in the second game of a doubleheader, this time of year, that temperature, I would have had some youth in that lineup.
Yeah, it's a hell of a point. Romo 2001 is making a donation to ask this question. He says, who gets cut when the roster goes to 26 in May? What do you guys think? Marty, Danny, who's going to be on the chopping block on when we get to May and they go from 28 to 26? Two guys got to go.
Yeah, Williams, Vossler, that's going to get worked out.
Yeah,
something there. And then I think what we've said, I think Beatty is a guy in the midst of this whole thing, but you don't like to lose players. So you got to figure out who can go on the DL and who's got options. And maybe they keep Beatty and maybe the option Duggar back. Maybe they use Slater in the field and Peterson and Yastrzemski, and maybe Ruff goes back to left field. I think the one thing to keep in mind is they don't like to lose players.
The word that you hear is we want to maintain inventory. Yeah. That's the buzz phrase in April and May. And what that means is just that we understand that there's going to be a lot of juggling. We understand that the roster is not perfect right now. But if we have a guy that, that we're gonna use, we've got a plan that we, put on paper in the off season. We're gonna carry that plan out, and that means that we're going to try to, the guys who have options will go out first, and they'll maintain their inventory until they feel like they got a good handle on who's going to produce and who's not going to produce. A guy called Ed says, could we take a low risk, potentially high reward gamble on former number one pick Justin Upton? I would say 2 thumbs down Though I do like I like Upton as a guy. I think he's a he's a professional guy. He's a good person. He's a guy that I think would be real popular in the clubhouse, and he would give them a veteran guy. But he's a 200 hitter right now against right-handed pitching. I think it was 205 last year over the course of a full year against righties. There's a lot of swing and miss in his game. I don't know what's happened to him because he has aged horribly in the game. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that this guy was, worthy of, a massive contract and was a real force against left-handed pitching. But that day is come and gone. Where are you guys with Justin Upton? Would you want to? I mean, this team, people will talk about, they remember guys who did well and they forget what that player looked like on paper before. Like, give you an example. Pat Burrell. Pat Burrell in 2010, Marty remembers this. He was hitting like 198 for Tampa. And the Giants took a flyer on him. He hit 20 home runs from when the Giants added him to the end of the year. So he was a far better offensive player with the Giants than he was in Tampa. Sometimes guys need a change of league. Sometimes guys need a change of scenery, different clubhouse. Where are you guys with Upton? Either one of you.
Well, my first thought when he got released by the Angels was it wouldn't hurt to take a flyer on him at 700,000, but then that takes a spot like Slater. If you're not playing Slater now, why would you play Upton? I mean, Upton they need right-handed power, but they're not going to play him against right-handed pitching. So he's only a left-handed facing lefty. So where does that put Slater, Ruff in the outfield? And, when guys start coming back, I just don't think he's Farhan's type of guy. He doesn't seem to work counts as much as what the Giants' philosophy is. They look to get guys to really take a lot of pitches. Upton doesn't have that plate discipline that the Giants teach. So I don't think he's a fit at this point.
What do you think, Marty?
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything that Dan said. What I would do is, if he's interested, sign him, send him to Sacramento, just like Pat Burrell went to Fresno. Send him to Sacramento, let him play in Sacramento for a month, and see what you have. And then all of a sudden in June or July, when people get hurt and rosters get shaken up a little bit, then if he's doing something legit, you bring him up. But he's got to be willing to do that. He cannot be signed and put on a team because as Dan said, there's nowhere to put him. There's no place for him. What are you going to do with Ruff? You can't make him an outfielder and bench somebody else. So, yeah, I'd send him to Sacramento if he's interested, and let him play a month down there and see what you got.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
What's that, Danny?
I think that's a good idea. Let him work his way up, see if he's got anything left in the tank, and if he starts tearing the ball off the cover down in Sacramento. And down in Sacramento, he'd get a chance to play every day, whereas here in up on the big club, he's only going to face when they see left-handed pitching.
He's not ready to play here.
Yeah, he's not ready. And getting back to the question that I think it was Romo that had about the who gets put down when rosters get cut to 26.
Right.
I think there's Marty mentioned one of them is going to be either Williams or Vossler, one of those guys that they have options. The other is going to be a pitcher, I believe, and I think that'll probably be Sam Long. But with Cobb going down tonight, he could get some starts. But I would expect to see Beatty get 2 or 3 starts here if Cobb's out for 2 to 3 weeks.
Are we going Sam Long now? Do I get an update? Has an M and a Y been dumped?
Sammy likes to be called Sam, but he said whatever.
I've been calling you Danny. Do you like to be called Dan?
Either or, it doesn't matter.
I've been calling you Marty. Should I go with Martin?
Are you Lawrence Krueger?
Yes. If my mother were here, she'd say, Lawrence?
Lawrence, it's the Lawrence Krueger Show.
Hey.
I am Lawrence. He is Martin. This is Daniel. Welcome.
Yeah. So, that's great. Yeah, I gotta say that I think they're gonna make some moves. That's Farhan's way. I mean, how many moves did they make last year? It's just, and these things have a tendency to work themselves out. Guys get hurt. Bereavement,
that is true. It's a long year.
List, maternity, paternity, whatever. Something comes up. Guys, last year it was, COVID. They had that coming up. So Farhan is going to master that. I do know that one thing's going to be a little different come May. I believe in May they revert to the 15-day IL instead of the 10-day. Yeah. So that's going to have some impact on their planning because they used to. Farhan mastered that last year.
The manipulation of the 25-man or 26-man. Rebel 444 says, "I'd rather take a low risk, high reward on Ramon Loriano from the A's than Justin Upton. Hard pass on Upton." Well, Loriano's still suspended right now, isn't he, from last year, guys? But I will say this, man: if that is the guy. If you want to get a difference-making guy for the Giants, I think Ramon Loriano is your guy. Why? Well, he plays with tremendous energy. I think he's a smart player. He's got one of the best outfield arms in the game. And I think he's a guy who's in the prime of his baseball life. He's obviously coming off of a embarrassing situation. So, he's got to, hit the ground running. He's got all the motivation in the world to kind of show that he's the player that he was before the suspension. It's a black mark on his career. So he's motivated. I don't know that you could get him. You'd probably have to give up something significant, maybe Ramos, to get a guy like Loriano. No way.
No.
But I'll say this: Loriano would look great in the orange and black. He's an exciting, electric player. What do you think, Marty? What do you think Loriano? What do you think the A's plan is with Loriano?
Well, the plan is to trade everybody.
Yeah.
So I assume he's part of everybody. Why not? So he's going to go. Montas will probably go by the mid-year and all that, unless somehow the A's miraculously, are in the race. But I love Loriano. Loriano can walk into center field and be the center fielder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's an everyday guy. That's the thing with now somebody had in here. I trust Farhan, but I don't trust Gabe. I think that's kind of interesting. I look at him as a package deal. Do you guys differentiate in any way between Farhan and Gabe as far as your level of belief? In them? Do you believe more in Kapler than you believe in Farhan? Do you believe more in Farhan than you believe in Kapler? Who's better at what they do between those two guys in your mind?
Well, I think the better part are the nerds, because the nerds come up with
the analytic people.
Yeah, the game plan. And that is then given to Kapler. And then Kapler implements that game plan. So if he's going to pinch hit in the fifth inning because now Peterson's in the game, you want to put Ruff in the game, he knows the nerds have told him, make your move now. Percentage-wise, this is it. The analytical thing is just wild. And they're at the top of the list for me. So they're fabulous. So I think they give Kapler the information. But Kapler handles the bullpen pretty well.
He does.
Pretty well, I must say. Look at tonight. I'm just looking at my scorecard again. 4 1/3 in the second game. I mean, they're only down 3-0. This is the DH era. There's no pitcher hitting. Everybody hits. Every inning is a potential big inning. And that bullpen kept them in the game for 4 1/3 to the point where they had the tying run at the plate late in the game. So the bullpen for me, and I realized Garcia had a little trouble in that 10th inning tonight, but I think the bullpen has been just outstanding. How about Marte? How about that guy?
Junior Marte, I saw him last summer pitching in Sacramento, and I thought to myself, man, this guy's got a super live arm. He's like 95, 96. It's got a lot of giddy up on it, and he's got a pretty nice little breaking ball. So, he's another guy that, the depth in this bullpen knows no bounds. I mean, they got it. Every time you look up, they got somebody else. And and show me the guy who doesn't do the job. I mean, they're getting it done. I mean,
McGee. How about
yeah.
Rogers? Come on, Rogers is 8 pitches and he's out of the inning.
Absolutely.
Terrific. When the professor Ron Waters was in Sacramento, he told me about Marte. He said,
what did he say about him?
He said, legit. He said he looked really good. He liked Villar, the first baseman. He liked him. So he told me about those two specifically.
Is he down there, or is he always with the big league club?
No, he's just spent a whole series with San Jose.
So he's the roving guy now. He's roving throughout the system, looking at different guys. Or
no, he's there at all the home games in uniform, and he works with the coaches and the players.
Gotcha.
And watches the game. And when the team's on the road, he goes to San Jose or Sacramento. But at some point, he'll go to Eugene and maybe to Richmond just to take a look at what they got. Because, they need him. He's an evaluator. Ron Wotus is one of the best evaluators in baseball. So if you're going to evaluate what you got at San Jose, you got to say, well, wait a minute, what's at Eugene? So you got to know what Kyle Harrison looks like, what Matos looks like, Patrick Bailey and all that. So he'll go up to Eugene at some point too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marte. You want to weigh in?
I was going to say, well, the Giants know what they're doing. They added Marte in this offseason to the 40-man, and, they didn't want to lose him. Another perfect example of trying to protect their inventory, as you say. So this is just a very solid group that they've got. They do, as we talked about, they need some extra hitting, but that'll come. I believe the hitting is going to come as the weather heats up. I really do. It happens every year.
The whole league isn't hitting. All of baseball isn't hitting. And we may have this 2010 all over again, where the pitching teams dominate, and we just may have that happen again.
Hey, guys, before we go any further, let's take a quick time out and talk a little bit about our sponsors. If I can go back to the comments and take the comment down, there we go, so we can see Dan Coach Emilio, and that guy looks off. That guy looks very similar to this guy. Look, man on the left, man on the right. And we want to thank Danny and tell you, go to securemoney.com or give Dan a call. Don't call him this second because he's on the show at 925-628-9966. But Dan, since you're here, why don't we, hear you in your own words. You're a sponsor of the Krueg Show, and we appreciate that and thank you for it. And your primary thing is not that you're a Giants fan or a Niner fan or a Warrior fan, though you are. It's that you have built a career on helping people prepare for retirement with over a couple decades of experience. So if people are hearing me talk about you on all these shows and hear me mention securemoney.com and, of course, your phone number, 925-628-9966, when they call that number, when they go to that website and they contact you, tell us a little bit about where it goes from there and what you hope to achieve and help them with.
Yeah, what I basically do is I help protect people's assets for retirement. So what people who have worked their entire life, they've got a 401k, they're now retiring, or they've reached the age of 59 and a half, and maybe they have concerns, they're still working, but they have concerns about the present economy with the markets being very unstable. I'm the secure money guy, and so basically what I do is I protect a portion of their assets that basically the percentage that they want to protect. I'll ask them, how much do you want left to chance and how much do you want guaranteed? And whatever they tell me is what we try to invest in safe, secure products that will grow with the market, but will never lose any value when we have a correction in the market. As we've had this past year, we've seen some portfolios of people lose 10% or more, 20%. Had a gentleman recently, about a month ago, had quite a bit of assets and asked the question, what should I do with this? And I advised him, didn't take that advice. He went ahead and invested it in the market. and he lost quite a bit. Then he called me right back and said, I should have
Of
listened
course.
to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Dan,
so,
come back.
so
Help.
we ended up, getting him into safety, and we were able to actually get him a pretty substantial bonus, which made up the losses that he had in the market.
That's terrific. Well, we should tell people securemoney.com on the web. The 925 number, 925-628-9966. If people call your number and they want to get a hold of you, Dan, and I'm sure they will, what would you like them to leave on the message machine? Is there any just a contact number, or what kind of details are you looking for?
Yeah, basically just their name, their phone number. They heard about me on your show, the Krueg Show, and just leave a message if I don't answer, and I'll get right back to him that day.
Well, we thank you for advertising. And once again, securemoney.com, 925-628-9966, Dan Coach Emilio. And our other sponsors, Telmetrics.co. And let me tell you quickly about them, because if you're an orthopedic surgeon, an occupational therapist, a chiropractor, or a physical therapist, you want to listen to me here, because Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics, they use computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in clinical and telehealth environments. Using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injuries, if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist, make sure that you go to telmetrics.co. That's TELMETRIX.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and the people at Telmetrics for being a sponsor of the Krueg Show. Let's fast forward to tomorrow. Let's roll in our final, let's say 5 minutes before we say goodnight and bid everybody adieu. Let's talk a little bit about the series and what we're going to see with Carlos Rodon. Guys, the one thing that has really impressed me is Rodon's got 21 strikeouts in 12 innings, and he has a profound impact on the rotation because of that number right there. Yeah, he strikes guys out. He gives the defense a little bit of a day off. And man, tomorrow, especially after the sweep today at the hands of the Mets, Rodon will play the role of stopper, and they need him to go out there and do what he does. I'm interested to see over the course of the summer, guys, if Gabe uses the Rodon starts as a good opportunity to rest a guy like Crawford, or rest Estrada, or rest Duggar, some of your better defenders in the middle of the diamond, because you've got a guy who's going to pile up the punch outs. Marty, give me your thought on Carlos Rodon, what you've seen thus far, and what you hope to see tomorrow against the Mets.
Well, you hope he's not like Webb, who went 8 innings in his last start and struggled tonight. Weather probably had a lot to do with it. So the weather tomorrow, I was just looking it up. It's supposed to be 59 and sunny in New York tomorrow. So that's good news for him, that he, should be able to get loose and pitch a nice game. I think he's been terrific. He's got great command. He pumps that fastball, and I think he will shut the Mets down. I think there's only a couple of players that can hurt him on that team. One is Marte, and the other one's Alonso. And I think he's going to be able to have a good game tomorrow. Bassett is more of a control guy. And again, he can make mistakes. So I say the Giants win tomorrow 4-2.
What do you think of the concept of maybe Kapler, as the season plays out, using the Rodon start as a rest day, maybe for some of his better defenders? Just because, man, I'm watching Rodon with those punch outs. He really does kind of give the defense a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to do that for Crawford and Belt and Ruff if you could, but there's a righty going, and that means Crawford and Belt are your, key guys. You want them in that lineup. So theoretically, I love what you said, but for Peterson, Yaz, Crawford, Duggar, Vossler, these guys, I don't know, is Voss? Yeah, Vossler's on the team. He's not the 29th guy. Williams was the 29th guy. I think the normal left-handed hitters go against Bassett tomorrow. Scratch out a few runs and let Rodon do the rest.
Danny, people weighing in on the chat on you. Dan the man. And then Out of Here podcast says, always appreciate people helping people invest or make more than they would otherwise have made. So you're getting some fans reaching out to you. Danny, what do you think about Rodon tomorrow? Obviously this is a big start for the Giants. The one thing I would expect is I like the Giants in the early innings to get it going tomorrow. Why? Because look at the way this team under Kapler has rebounded off losses. And now you're coming back off a doubleheader sweep. Now, granted, the Mets are a good team, but I expect the Giants to jump out early and give Rodon some breathing room early in the game tomorrow. What do you expect to see from Carlos?
Well, I hope to see the same what we saw the first two games. He was just dynamite. I'm glad the weather's a little warmer because I definitely think that contributed to Webb's not so great of an outing tonight. And I think that's why he was pulled after 70 some odd pitches in the fourth inning. Kapler, and I wouldn't be surprised, that question came up earlier, who's making the calls. Wouldn't be surprised if Farhan and alerted Gabe, or Gabe just in his Andrew Bailey talked and said, hey, let's get him out of here. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have a fastball at all tonight. So glad the weather's going to be a little warmer tomorrow, because Webb, you could see it. He was struggling, didn't have it. So they got him out of there and preserved him for his next start, which is probably going to be Sunday. So no sense pitching him, throwing 15, 20 more pitches and using his arm up when he didn't have it. So if the weather's warm tomorrow, Rodon's he pitched with the White Sox last year. He's used to cold weather more than Webb. Webb's been in California his whole life. So I think Rodon, if he can give him 6 good innings and get to that bullpen, that would be fantastic. And I like what you're saying about getting off to a quick start, because they didn't hit it all today.
No question about it. Let me just thank everybody before we get a final thought from you and Marty. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for the Krueg Show, and be extra sure to hit the notification bell so you can catch all the upcoming shows. You'll just be notified if you click on that notification bell next time we're doing a live stream. Love doing what we're doing. We're really enjoying the Krueg Show. I'm having a ton of fun every single day doing these live streams, talking to great people about the Giants, the Niners, the Warriors, the NFL draft, and all these fun things. I'm having fun. I hope all of you are having fun. Thanks for supporting my channel. If you want to support me, support my sponsors, Telmetrics, .co and Dan Coach Emilio, retirement planning specialist. Support my sponsors, and that helps the show. Thanks to Len Dempsey. Thanks to Ryan Smith. Thanks to Danny and Casey Bateman and all the good people who are sponsoring the Krueg Show. Guys, final thought. Giants, it wasn't a great day for the Giants, as we know. Doubleheader sweeps. It's funny. Out of Here podcast says, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Giants struggled in doubleheaders too last season. Maybe just a random coincidence. Marty, was that the case last year? Did they struggle in doubleheaders? And by the way, as a kid, when the schedule came out, the very first thing that I would do, Marty, is I would go and I'd find which games were the doubleheaders. Oh, let's go to a doubleheader. And the Giants used to start at 1:05. I think for doubleheaders, they might have started the first game at 12:05. So, man, doubleheader meant you took the ballpark bus. You were at the ballpark at like 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, BP, then game 1. Then you got a next little half-hour break. Then game 2. You came home. You were sunburnt. You'd seen 2 full games. I can remember Giants Pirates, a late 79 doubleheader, incredible. I can remember Giants Cardinals, Roger Craig and Whitey Herzog, all the pitch outs as the Giants trying to slow Kruko and Brenly and those guys trying to slow down Lonnie and Ozzie Smith and Willie McGee. Some great Giant doubleheaders through the years. Giants Dodgers doubleheader on Willie Mack Day in 1980. Willie hit one up the gap and won the first game of the doubleheader. And then the Giants trotted Rich Murray out in the 8th inning as the replacement. And Rich Murray got a cheer like he was going to be the replacement for Willie Mack. Obviously, we know that he was nothing like Eddie Murray, his older brother. But I love a doubleheader, but not today. Not today for the Giants. Give me your thought on doubleheaders, and one final thought on today's doubleheader.
Well, I love doubleheaders, and when I grew up as a kid in Miami Stadium to see the Miami Marlins go every Sunday, and it was fabulous. When I came to California, I'd go to Candlestick for double headers. And I just remember by the end of the second game, the wind was
Yep.
blowing the hot dog wrapper
Exactly.
corner, and you go home in the fog and everything else. But it was just a great day at the park. These guys don't play a lot of double headers anymore.
No,
And I really say what I said when
like
the
a
show.
dinosaur.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're in shape for this kind of double header today.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they may have been a little bit overwhelmed today, the Giants on this one. So I love double headers, and I just say 7-4. And Dan points out last year 7-4. They won 107 games. They can pitch like crazy, and as I said, give them 100 at bats, and then we'll see where they are. But nobody's going to push them around. Even these games tonight that they lost 5-4 and 3-1, they were in the game. They could have won both games. They don't get blown out by anybody, and that's the beauty of this team. They're good.
Yep. Danny, I will give you the final thought as I
Yeah.
put my favorite banner on the screen. Bye-bye, Salinas. Go ahead, Danny.
I loved double headers growing up. Went to many at Candlestick, and even what was crazy is you had a double header and you had less than 10,000 people at many of those as a kid growing up. But I remember one game in particular. Bob Nepper pitched a complete
lefty.
game. Yep, complete game, 81 pitches against the Pirates. And it was like the game was over so fast, but it was like, hey, we got another one. So that was fun. Today's doubleheader, what I would say to the fans listening is this is baseball. This just stuff happens as part of 162.
Wait a second. Marty, are you gonna allow that?
I almost wanted.
Wait, Danny. Danny's just taking your line, right?
I know.
I think it's Marty's line that says that's baseball. Danny just went with it's baseball. Marty, how do you feel about Danny saying it's baseball?
I didn't want to interrupt him because Danny, that'll be $5.
$5.
Seriously, Dan, Coach Emilio, Danny, your kangaroo.
I stole the line and I got fined. In
kangaroo court's gonna find you, Dan. You just took.
Let me steal another.
What's another one? You got another one?
Mike Krueger says you're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60. It's the other 42 what you do with it. So
there you go.
This stuff's going to happen, and I, hey, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season with the three guys that are out and the changes, losing Buster Posey, losing Bryant, and you said after 11 games they're 7-4 and they're right at the top of the division with the Dodgers, I'd take it.
Danny, if you ever utter the word mosaic, you're done. You're done with us.
It's going to go right into my retirement fund.
Marty, we always love rapping with you. You are undoubtedly the king. What? Now we're catching you early in the week. It's only a Tuesday. So I know you probably are in the process of kind of cooking up what's coming up on the weekend, but I know you also have some regulars and some things that you always have planned weeks in advance. So anything that you want to tease for this weekend, it'll be the Giants and the Nationals, and Marty will be coming on before game
7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Sunday.
7 a.m. on Saturday morning.
That's right. Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. Because the game started at 10:05 and 10:30, something like that. So we're up early. But, we're going to have Mark Simon, Sports Info Solutions, and Adam Copeland and Bruce Jenkins will be on both days. And the professor, Ron Wotus, will be there too. Ken Korak is going to be on Sunday because the A's are coming up Tuesday and Wednesday.
Nice. I love Kenny.
Yeah, and then we'll probably get someone from Washington, one of the writers or something, kind of to preview them. And then our upcoming star, the new star, Walter Icabalseta, who's wonderful. You know him, Lawrence, don't you?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Martin. Walter is a good friend, and just every time he would be in the back room there and his name would come up, I would always say the same thing. My man Walter's got flavor. Just all you got to do is say, Larry Krueger, and he'll say, Larry says I have flavor.
Okay, I'll do that this weekend. But he's going to be on, and I'm looking forward to having him on. So we've got a couple of good shows. And then it's the game itself. Because, let's see, Washington has been a big mess. They're talking about selling the team. They've divested themselves of all the big contracts. So you hope the Giants can walk in there and take care of business. So it's going to be a challenging weekend for sure.
Well, this was fun today, guys. We'll end it right here. I'm back tomorrow. We got a big Wednesday. Vish Kumaran, who's our college, he's a senior in college, and he goes to the University of Chicago. He's going to join us at noon to talk Niners on the live stream, and we got a lot to talk about with the Debo stuff tomorrow. Also, join me tomorrow at 3 o'clock on Grant Cohn's channel at 3 o'clock for the Cohn Zone. We'll talk a little bit more Niners there. In fact, it's going to be a Niner party tomorrow because at 4:30 you're going to hear me on the Locked On 49er podcast with Brian Peacock and the boys, and then Peacon's going to join us tomorrow night in the post game. Pecan, Giants Mets at 4:10 tomorrow, and then Patrick Connor will join me in the post game, and we'll have a lot of fun with Pecan. So, I'm really looking forward to that as well. It's a totally different flavor than Daniel Coach Emilio and Martin Lurie LLC, but I'm looking forward to that. But great stuff today, guys. And Marty, as usual, you're on your game, and Danny, thanks again for sponsoring. And, I love that I didn't know when you sponsored that you were this big of a Giants fan and this good of a Giants fan. I'm very impressed by your takes day to day. So don't be a stranger. Come back, as many times as you want. I would love having you in these chats. And I think people also benefit from your observations on the game. So
you know the game, Dan. It's fun.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, thank you. I've followed it, played it, so it's something I'm very passionate about. And I looked at the stats here at 7-4, the percentage. The Giants are on a 103 game pace still, so we don't have to get too worried after losing a doubleheader.
Marty, as Gary Radnich would say, all right, don't get a big head, don't get full of yourself. You're not that good.
Well, if you can hang with Larry and me, you're doing well.
That's right. If you can hang with us,
because you get a word in edgewise with the two.
Yeah, you know what they say, Danny. If you're going to party with the big boy, unless you're going to party with the big boys, don't show up.
All right. Okay.
Hey, Dan, Marty, great stuff. Thanks to everybody. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.
All right.
You too. Thanks.